hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rise PSS. I'm Ben. This is Alicia. We are your hosts here for the Rise PSS. Before we jump into something a little bit different today, I just want to give a quick shout out to Anjul Arjawal, who is from FeedSpot and feedspot.com, who actually just reached out to us and let us know that within all of the Idaho church podcasts, we are, I believe it's within the top 10. We're also within the top 10 podcasts of the Pacific Northwest podcast, and we are the number one podcast, according to this, in Idaho Falls podcasts.
Crazy.
So thank you all for your support, your love. As you continue to like what we're doing, feel free to leave us a review, share different segments and all of that stuff. Again, if you're on YouTube, become a follower and thanks for helping us make this happen. So cool. Super cool. We've really enjoyed being able to do this together. I did mention that we're going to be doing something just a little bit different today. Normally, this is our PSS, our post-sermon show, where we go over the previous week's sermon. But we also want to allow room as special things would take place. And as we've acknowledged over the past couple of weeks, we've had some fairly special things take place, namely Alicia's trip to Israel and all that took place with that. And so just want to have some space here today. I don't know if this will go on. In the back of my mind, I think of this as being like, 2 to 3 episodes of this, but we'll see how far we get with this episode, and we'll kind of go from there. So with that, why don't you tell us, like, how did this all come about? Like, you going to Israel? Give us the background story of that, and then eventually we'll move into the nitty-gritty of it.
Great. I got to give a shout out. Awesome. I have had the opportunity this past year, about a year ago, to rewind. I went through a cohort called Women in Ministry Leadership with Dr. Pastor Marian Engineering, this amazing, fiery woman of God. Yeah. She has been doing ministry for a while. She is fiery. I'm like, I want some of your energy when I am older and to be doing what you're doing. I'm like, she's a great example of someone who you can still be doing ministry for the Lord in your later years of life.
Amen.
Like, your ministry does not have to stop as you get older.
Totally.
If anything, her ministry has increased as she's gotten older.
I love that. I'm just going to jump in real quick there because I love just a comment that an older gentleman said to me a few years back now, but it's just resonated and it's something that I want to carry on with me. But someone asked him, "Are you retiring? You're at this age, are you retiring?" He said, "Yeah, I'm retiring, but not the way that you think of it. I'm retiring in the sense that I'm putting new tires on."
Oh, that's so
right?
good.
And so it's a new season of life. That doesn't mean that this season's done. It doesn't mean that God's done using me, but it's a new season where I get to be all the more available to God in a new set of circumstances. So anyways,
I like
go
that.
back on. Yeah, it's good. Retiring.
Oh, man. Yeah. So I went through this cohort, which was, I think I've talked about it some at other moments, but it was just a monumental moment for me, and empowering me to walk in what the Lord was calling me to. And it went through that during kind of a difficult season. But as I came out of that cohort and kind of graduated from it, I just continued to feel the Lord stirring me to still be part of that ministry and to serve with it. It's not based here. She's based in Arizona, but does stuff across the U.S. and globe, really. There's people that come to this cohort from even other countries.
Wow.
And so I just felt the stirring to still be part of that. And there's not many ministries that I feel that stirring in my spirit towards.
Nor do you have space for.
Nor do I have space. Yes. And so I just kept going to him. I was like, hey, I want to serve and I want to be part of this. How can I be a part of this? And so I was asked to be part of the team, to be lead ambassador. And so basically that just means I get to advertise, invite people to, talk to people about what this ministry is, her overarching ministry of Ministry Leader Network that encompasses various components, including a conference coming up at the end of April for women and women leaders. And this woman in ministry leadership cohort that's meant for empowering women into what God has called them to and their callings. And we've seen that in our 1 Corinthians study with Paul standing on, I am an apostle, his call that the Lord had placed on his life and standing in that. So kind of an interjection there. And so I've been serving with this ministry now for about a year. And so I got an invite from Pastor Marion, to go on this trip to Israel. Now, she had recently been asked to be the national, the national director or director of the National Day of Prayer for the Peace of Jerusalem, which is just crazy and phenomenal. And so we got an opportunity at Wimble Summit this spring to pray over her, to kind of launch her into this season.
Awesome.
We did the same thing in Israel. We got to launch her into this season from the ground in Israel, which was really neat. So I got invited onto this trip, which was huge, this funded trip to Israel. And, you know, it was Awakened and Empowered, the Esther Mandate. So it wasn't
this was
just,
the topic.
This was the title of, the title of the group going.
Okay.
I guess,
Say it
right?
again.
The Awakened and Empowered Esther Mandate.
Got it.
And it was a group of about, I think it ended up being 117 of us.
Okay.
There were a few, which I'll get to, that did kind of back out prior to the trip. Ended up being 117 of us, women pastors and leaders from across the U.S., some that serve even in other countries.
Wow.
They were also there. And specifically 40 of us were from our denomination, from Foursquare.
Okay.
Mostly Foursquare lead or co-lead senior pastors, female pastors. And so this group of us, we were getting ready to go. And then we started hearing some wrestlings that...
Before you go there, before you jump in,
Oh.
So when you say you were invited to go on this trip, because there's a little bit more to it. Because being pastors with 5 kids and, you know, all of that, making a trip like this would be really expensive. So what made that actually possible?
Yeah, possible. Well, I think I said that. It was fully funded.
Oh, fully funded. Okay, I missed that part. So,
yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
It was fully funded.
It was fully funded. And then, so I got the invite and I was like, wow, I was shocked.
Yeah.
And then I obviously went to my husband here and I'm like, I just got this invite, and he's shocked. Then he's like, wait, what? And then we were actually at church for prayer morning. And so I'm still like in shock. And then we get home and I'm like, okay, so like, we obviously have to talk about this because that's 10 days. There's going to be a 10-day trip in Israel. That's 10 days that you're stuck with the kids while still pulling the church together and pastoring and master's program and 5 young kids at home who are a handful, and a new house, so
New
in
goats.
a farm, goats, yep. And so, like, okay, so obviously we have to talk about this. Can I do this? Is this feasible? Can you handle all of this? And your answer was pretty immediately like, yes, of course, you can't turn down this opportunity.
Yeah, how can you say no? Like, for this to be paid for, like, even if it was just a trip to Israel, you know, being covered like that, that's huge.
Yeah.
But the fact that this was
more
a
than
part
just
of something,
Yep.
it felt like and feels like something global that God is doing and that He invited you into.
Yes.
And
Amen.
that, for
Yep.
me, that's kind of where that came from. It was like, how can you say no to that? Like God's calling you. It's clear.
Yeah, and our leaders were saying yes, Marion and Lynn Cooper and Tiffany Derman were a couple of the other pastors kind of helping Marion with at least our team part of it, because it was, again, a kind of a whole team, a big group that wasn't all Foursquare. And they were sending us, like prophetic words leading up to that trip and things they want us to just like press into. And so like there was this general sense that I don't think everybody realized, though, before we left. There was this general sense that this wasn't just a tour, like you said.
Wow.
It wasn't just a trip
Yeah.
to just go see the sights and go see the places where Jesus walked. There was something more spiritual to this trip than most trips that are taken there. And mind you, this was also a monumental trip. This was the first time they've taken that large of a group of just women to Israel.
Yeah.
It was with the ministry called Eagle's Wings
Okay.
Ministry. And their heart and goal is to build community and relationship between Christians and the Jewish people,
Okay.
to bridge that gap there. And so that's kind of their heart and goal of the ministry. But this was a monumental trip of the largest group of women leaders to be brought there. This ministry actually has connections. So we were supposed to meet with the president of Israel while we're there and his wife. We
Okay.
were supposed to meet with several female Knesset leaders, like just our group with them, which is
like
huge.
some level of like government.
Yeah. Yep.
officials?
It's their government there, like their
Okay.
core government. And so these big people that we were supposed to meet with there, which again, most people don't have the opportunity to do.
Yeah.
And the title Esther Mandate was wrapped around the fact that we were going during Purim,
Okay.
which if you don't know what Purim is, they celebrate this, the Jewish people celebrate this every year around the same time of year. And it's celebrating Queen Esther and her role in stepping up and her courage in stepping up and being monumental in bringing freedom to her people.
Powerful.
And so they do this huge celebration every year. It's like, I think a couple days. I can't remember exactly is like the primary piece of it, but it's that whole season is like the Purim season around then. So it was focused in right on that. And they felt like there was something to it that they needed to be bringing this group of women at this time. And so, but as we got closer, we knew that there was some stuff happening, that maybe the U.S. was about to engage in some sort of war actions with Iran, who neighbors Israel, is, been in, I don't know, I'm bad with that stuff, but governmental stuff, like they've been in war with Israel though for a while.
Right. So tensions were building. I
Yep.
mean, at that point, prior to you leaving, I believe like there was news of our carriers,
That's what it was.
moving that direction, and different military assets being moved into the area, and so yeah.
Yeah, so you know more on that stuff than I'm not I'm not good with that stuff. I don't follow the news very well. And so we knew that. And the ministry, overarching ministry team, Eagles Wings, they knew that. But they also were unique in that some of the tour guides that were on our buses, I think 2 of them, they had pretty deep connections into the Israeli military. And so they had intelligence, and they were able to see into, okay, what's happening that maybe the rest of us can't see behind the scenes. And so there was a lot just in the few, like, I think it was just the week before we left, of discussion and talking to those connections of, is it safe for our team to still come? Is this feasible? There's risk, obviously, but is it safe at the moment?
Right.
And so the general consensus was that, yes, at the moment it's still safe. And as the team was praying over it, they still felt like the Lord was calling us to be there.
Right.
But they did, in their wisdom and their shepherding, they left that door open for some who did not feel comfortable, or families didn't feel comfortable, to step back and to take their deposit and use it on a future trip. And so I think there were 5 to 10 maybe that did make that decision. But for those of us that continued to go on with the trip, we just felt this peace that, no, we're supposed to be there, and we feel at peace going, and we're trusting God. We're still going to go.
Yeah.
So we did. We flew out on a Wednesday.
Okay.
And then there's a huge time difference, and air takes a while to get there. It's like 13-hour direct flights.
Oh, mercy.
The whole works. So we get there mid-after or early afternoon on Thursday their time.
Okay.
So by the time we got through airport and all that, I mean, we had just, like some afternoon hours to go see some things. So we did. We got to go see, once we were boots on the ground, we got to go to the port of Joppa and go see, which is where Jonah fled from when he was running away from God's call.
Yeah.
Beautiful to look out at the Mediterranean Sea there. It's just to be there and be like, and we had just gone through a Jonah series this last year. So to be there and be like, wow.
This is where it happened.
And this is a vast body of water. Right there, you're going to walk down some cobble streets and such. You walk down to Simon the Tanner's house.
Wow.
Where Peter believe, was standing on the roof, and that's when he saw that vision from the Lord, that open vision of the sheet coming down. It was that monumental moment of God saying he's drawing the Gentiles in.
Yeah.
And so we got to see a couple of those like key scriptural biblical spots just in that first night after landing there. So we're jet lagged, tired, but we got to see these things. Which like, this is amazing.
So that first night, did you sleep well?
I actually did.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, that's a lot of travel.
I did. I think I slept fairly well the whole trip, minus what we'll get to with once everything kind of started. So a couple days of not so much great sleep.
Yeah.
But so we got to see that first night, got to our hotel then. Beautiful hotel. If you've never been to Israel, I don't know if this is normal for every hotel. I think if you're at decent hotels, it is. But boy, did they feed you.
Is that right?
Oh my gosh, it's like buffet on steroids.
Oh my gosh.
So it was incredible for like breakfast, dinner. It's the same. It's just insane. So with that, the next day we got up and we went to, I don't remember the order of what we saw first, but we went to Capernaum.
Okay.
And
how long of a drive was that? Like your first?
Things were actually closer than, I think we were like less than an hour in the bus from one location to the next.
Yeah. I mean, it's just kind of hard to, for us, at least for me, I'm looking at Bible maps and I've got no context for how far things are. So
I'm trying to remember. Again, it's those kind of pieces of it are a little blur, but I don't think from going to like Joppa to our hotel, I don't know if that was like maybe 30 minutes. Okay. And then the next day driving was like less than an hour, I think. Was it Capernaum or yeah, I'm still going to get my things messed up. No, I think it was Caesarea, right? And that's because I said Paul. Right. Yes. I'm getting my C's wrong because there was another C in this trip too. So I think it was Caesarea. And so we went to Caesarea, got to see some ruins there and the big grand like theater. Mm-hmm. So neat. And we got to see some key things there. We saw where there was like some steps where I think Jesus had maybe like shared from or preached from or something that were still present there. Wow. The coolest thing at that site, though, honestly, was we got to go down these stairs underground where the prison was that Paul was kept in. In that same prison where Paul was found singing in the midst of being chained up. And so we actually got to like all be in there and sang in the prison cell. So it was such a powerful moment. Like I think there were tears brought to some eyes of like, here we are standing in the place that Paul, in the midst of pain and having, been probably beaten some and chained up, is singing to God. And so powerful, powerful moment.
Yeah.
And then that same day we drove some distance further. Again, it didn't feel like it was that long that we were in from one place to the next. And we made our way to the Sea of Galilee.
Okay.
And so we got to walk and actually step into the Sea of Galilee. It's beautiful. It's a fairly big body of water, smaller than the other ones that I'll get to later in the trip. But it's still a pretty vast body of water. And this is where like Jesus walked on water and called, I think it's also where he called Peter out of the boat, right?
Wow.
And all this, and to see that and be like, wow, like
this is where that took place.
That's where this took place. And like the fact that they were so afraid on that body, like, again, it didn't seem like it was that far distance from one side to the other side of it. Yet I'm like, there had to have been some major storms come through there for them to be that afraid being on the water.
Yeah. So, I mean, judgment wise, and this is putting you on the spot, but like I think about some of our like family vacations over to like Bear Lake. And so like looking across Bear Lake, is that like similar size? I almost
feel like it was fairly close for at least from our, like where we were at to the other side over there. Kind of has some parts that like kind of went out on the sides a little bit. But honestly, yeah, it wasn't, because Bear Lake's a pretty good sized lake too, mind you. Yeah. Like if you're not from our area. So I would say maybe just a smidgen bigger possibly.
Really?
But like I wouldn't say it's like super far off perspective wise.
Well, that's the thing, because like as we were staying there a couple of summers back, we the guys were just looking out across the water and we're like, wonder how many miles that is. And so like we're guessing whatever, like maybe 3, whatever. as we looked it up, ended up like, I can't remember the exact numbers, but way more. And so it looked closer, but like just across the water, it was farther. So I'm guessing it could be similar case with, Yeah.
But so that was really neat. We also got to worship on the beach there as well. And the steps there where Jesus fed the 5,000, I think, were right there. I think I told you, I think it was actually they built a chapel
around
whatnot around
Very
that
cool.
spot. So very neat. So, I mean, this was that Friday, right? And so that first full day, which was going to be our only full day. And little did we know. And so we went to Mount Carmel. Where we saw Elijah make a stand against the gods of Baal and Ahab and showed them up.
Called down fire.
Called down fire after wetting everything and said, here's my God.
Check this out.
And so really cool. It was also a beautiful viewpoint. But we got to worship there. Again, another powerful time of just worshiping in these places of and being able to recall those things that happened in those places biblically while worshiping is just phenomenal. And it was fun to be up there because in this particular spot you had a lot of other tourists coming up, and I don't know if they were believers or not, but other tourist groups were coming up, and so we're here in the middle up on top of this like almost rooftop as people are coming up, and someone had a guitar and we were worshiping.
So cool.
So neat. We got to go do something a little different and went to lunch at this like restaurant that's family run, and by the and I didn't catch all the details, but it's by the Druid people, and they're basically just this other separate people group that have been kind of persecuted there. I didn't gather that, and I could be mistaken, but I didn't gather that they believe in our God.
Right.
Like, I think they have some like other belief system stuff in there. But they're another kind of like core group of people that live there. And so we got to have lunch there. And then I think that was, unless I'm missing something, I think that was much of what we did experience-wise that day. And then we got to go and we stayed out. It was the David's Harp Hotel. So neat. It's actually shaped, like it's supposed to be shaped kind of like a harp.
Seriously?
A harp. And you have views. All of the rooms have views out over the Sea of Galilee.
Oh, my goodness.
So kind of a neat place to be when war broke out.
Yeah. As you move into that section of the story, was it that you guys were like about to go out on boats or something? Okay, so tell us that part again.
So I think it was my timeline may be a little messed up, but I think it was that night, when the first missile, the U.S. had first engaged Iran.
Okay.
I think that had happened Friday night. So because of that, everybody was a little like, the team was kind of like, hey, what's going to happen next? Because Iran's not just going to let this go.
Right.
So what's about to take place? And so there was a little bit of that uneasiness that kind of had started that night.
Yeah. And what did that feel like just like in that moment, like with the other women, and like what were conversations like? How were conversations being handled? All of that.
Yeah. At that point, I think since it hadn't touched us yet, I think it was still felt a little far off the reality of it, just because it hadn't touched us yet. But there was definitely a little of that of like angst of like, okay, now what? Like,
got it.
What's about to happen? Like, are we safe here? So I think there were some of those thoughts, but they just weren't I don't think they're being verbalized, at least with the bulk of people, too much yet.
Okay.
Just I think again, subtle conversations. And so the next day came and we were still like, oh, we're getting ready for the day. We're down having breakfast. I think I had started wrangling people because people were still meandering like, hey, we're supposed to be on the buses in a few minutes. And they made it pretty clear that there's a couple of us doing that. They made it pretty clear.
You're
that,
like, we're 30 seconds past. It's time to go.
Okay, let's just be real. We have 120 women.
Yeah.
Even a bathroom stop turns into like an hour.
Oh, my word.
On a bus ride. So this is so like when they would say time to go, something would always happen. Someone would have left their phone somewhere or this happened. You've got 120 women. And so they were pretty clear, like, we need to be on buses at this point because we have a scheduled time for our next event, which was we were going to go take a boat and go sail on the Sea of Galilee.
Okay.
And I guess there was like some guy who plays music on the boat. And so like you do this like worship service type thing out on the Sea of Galilee.
That's neat.
And so they're like, we have to be on time for this. So I'm thinking like, what is happening? Like, and then I notice our leaders are still sitting over here at a table, like in pretty intense conversation. So it kind of people hustled onto the buses. They listened. They started going toward the buses. And then the next thing we know, and this is Saturday morning, the leaders are getting people off the buses and they're saying, hey, we want to meet with everybody in our meeting room. And so, okay, what's going on here? Like, and so we go get into the meeting room. They were just starting to talk. And we had all just gotten into the meeting room, just starting to talk. When our phones, everybody's phones started going off. You know, you see those like Amber Alerts. It's like the most comparable thing for most people.
Okay.
And that's what it like looked like, was this big alert. Your phone starts buzzing kind of erratically and says something about emergency. It had to pull it up. Emergency alert, missiles possibly headed your way or something.
Oh my goodness.
And so basically what we found out is everybody's phones are going off. We're all looking at them like, what does this mean? Like, we're confused. And they're like, that's just a warning. And then soon after that, then you start hearing, it's like a couple minutes later, we start hearing the sirens in the building go off. And I guess they're comparable to hearing like if you live somewhere where there's tornadoes, like those tornadoes horn. Yep. Yeah. So that starts going off in there. And then you get another alert that goes off on your phone that tells you you've got 30 seconds to get into the bomb shelter.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, and this is the first moment of it happening. And I pause there to say like, that was a God, like, we'll see like throughout our trip, there was just so many from the start of this happening. I mean, before the spiritual thing of still getting us there, boots on the ground. But just throughout that whole journey from that point forward, just seeing God's hand in every piece of it, because we were supposed to be on buses and we would have been on buses potentially driving when that first alarm went off. But instead we were all together instead of being scattered through the hotel or wherever. Right. We were all together. And so I think that was definitely God's hand in it.
Absolutely.
And so then we could all peacefully be directed and move right, because the shelter down in that part of the building was just like right outside of our room, and then there was a door there to go over to like the kitchen quarters basically. Okay. And the kitchen staff was so great, and they gave us like because it's a huge room that almost looks like a cafeteria. Oh. They gave us their bomb shelter room basically down there to use, since there were so many of us, instead of the other bomb shelters throughout the building that were smaller. Right. And so it really it looked like a cafeteria room with like tables in it. They were kind of all crowded into, but then there was like a steel door. That's what I was going to ask. Yep. So there was a steel door then that they would, once everybody's in, close.
Now, were they all on the floor level? Or were they did they have like second floor, third floor? Mm-hmm.
So they had them on every floor. And from my understanding, the bomb shelters are built on top of one another. Okay. And so they're on every floor, but each one is on top of another. So that way, theoretically, if something did hit the building or by it and the building collapsed or whatnot, you've got they're stacked instead of like, the bottom level getting taken out and your shelter falls. Yeah. So they are strategically stacked. Okay. And they do have them on every floor. So that was great. We were in just that ideal place, because then everybody had a safe shelter to get to pretty immediately on their floor.
And so how long between you getting that first text message, that first alert on your phone, to the one that says you've got 30 seconds?
It was generally like 2 to 3 minutes. Wow. And then if you kind of went too much further beyond that, it was pretty safe to say that, okay, there's like they got those missiles shot down before they actually got near us. Because I don't know if those alarms went off the moment that they like saw. However, again, I'm not privy to all that, but I don't know if those alarms the first alarm goes off the moment that they see Iran has shot something. But then once they figure out what trajectory it's on and where it's going to hit, then that's when you get the second warning. Okay. I think there's something kind of like that happens in the background. Wow. And so, it's pretty safe to say that they shot the missile down or something if you don't get that second warning a few minutes later. Okay. And so we all went into the bomb shelter, and like, I think that's when people's anxiety started flaring a little bit. Oh, yeah. For some more than others. So we did have a couple younger gals on the trip. Okay. And so they were, that very first one, they were like huddled in the corner and like, tears, like, cause they were just shaken of like, what's happening? Like, cause there's the unknown. Like, we've never been in that position. Does this mean that we literally have a missile that's about to hit us? Right. Like, or is this just like a safety precaution
Yeah,
kind
there's so
of
much
thing.
unknown.
Yeah, so much unknown. And so, and it's like, what do you do? We're sitting in a bomb shelter. Do we sit there and do we just like let our anxiety start to like flare up? Or like, what do you do? And so someone just started launching into singing and leading worship. And so there's literally 120 women in this bomb shelter just worshiping and singing. And specifically, the one song that we sang was "You Are Worthy of It All."
Yeah.
And so I shared that my first Sunday back here as just that thought of like, God holds every moment in his hands. Amen. He holds our past, our present, and our future. And if we're in the middle of chaos, in the middle of uncertainty, in the middle of like, is today my last day? Like,
is this my last moment?
Is God still worthy of it all? And so I think it was so powerful to be singing that song. Like, those are the thoughts that crossed my head. I was like, no, God, you're still worthy. Like, no matter whether our last day is today and you don't give me another day, like here on earth, like you're still worthy.
Yeah.
And you're worthy of me coming all the way to Israel to be here for whatever purpose it is that you brought us here for. And so we're in there. Sometimes it really varied how long you're in there. I would say generally we're like 10, 15 minutes. Sometimes it felt a little longer.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you guys got dismissed that first time from the bomb shelter, they said it's safe for you guys to go out. Were there some people who kind of felt like, are you sure? Like, should we stay in here, like, with that fear?
I feel like I heard little bits of that the first time. After that, it started to become kind of like natural.
Totally. Yeah.
We're like, okay, now we get it, what's happening here. I think there was some of that, a few questionings of just, how do we know? Like, and then it's like, well, okay, but we heard from people out here who are hearing other things,
right,
and they know that it is safe. So yes, it is safe for us to come out.
What a message in that. Like, there is someone out there who knows more than you do and is giving you information, right? That's kind of, that's cool.
Yeah. And so we got to come out that first one. We went back into the meeting room because you don't just disperse from that point. Like, there's got to be some debrief here or something. And so we went back to the meeting room where they had started to try to talk to us. Now their agenda's out the window because now it doesn't matter. Wwe're not going to the Sea of Galilee at this point now.
Yeah.
And so we go back in there and I don't even remember what they said. I don't think they said a whole lot. They said some things just to help bring a little more peace to people. And then they just like out of nowhere, they found sound equipment. I don't know where they had it stored somewhere. And they brought all this sound equipment in. They're like, you know what? We're just going to worship. That's what we're doing now. And 2 to 3 hours that we were in there just worshiping. Like, people on their knees. Worshiping in the midst of something like that is like, there's just a whole different like level to worship at that point. Cause it's like, everything in you now is worshiping. Cause you're like, that's all I have to do right now is worship God.
Yeah.
Like,
there's nothing else you can do.
No, like we're forced to be here in this moment right here just to worship and pray.
Wow.
And so we did that. And so we're in there 2 to 3 hours, just praying, worshiping, some gals going up and declaring some things.
So what's going on in your mind at this time? Like, you're you find yourself, you miraculously have this trip paid for. You're brought to Israel. It all comes together. You're there for a day and a half, you said?
Yep.
Day and a half.
Day and a half.
And then you find yourself in the midst of a war breaking out, missiles going overhead. Like, what's going through your mind?
I think I was shocked for one. I think I was like at peace going. It was like, I'm supposed to go at peace. But I think there was that piece of me that was like, oh, but it's going to be like fine. Like, nothing's actually going to happen while we're over there. The war's not going to break out. Like, that's just crazy. Like,
how would God bring us there? Like,
yeah,
in the middle of a war.
We're like, God gave us peace coming here. Like I think there was that part of me is like, he's not going to allow a war to break out while 120 like leaders are here in Israel. Like, it's not going to happen. So I think there was that like just obliviousness and like incorrect thinking. I don't, just.
Yeah, and trying to put it together too. Just like, all right, this is reality now. This did happen. Well, and then there's that walk in your faith too. That inward grappling of like, all right, God, how could you do this? How could you allow us in that? And then you see kind of faith build up and rise, especially in the midst of worship, I'm sure.
Yep.
where that faith arises and you're like,
So
okay,
true.
well, this isn't what we planned,
But we're
but
here now.
God doesn't always work within my plans.
Yep.
And God's bigger than us, and
Mm-hmm.
He's got some other reasons for us here. So that's
Yeah.
part of what's going on inside of you. Anything else stand out?
Yeah. No, and just really just immersing in that, engaging in that place of worship and just allowing the Spirit to just minister his peace. And I think that's something that as we're like fully engaging in worship, like complete heartfelt, abandoned worship, not just our mouths, but like our spirit and all worshiping God, that truly was just the supernatural peace that fell over.
That's real. That the Bible talks about, right? As we would be faithful to bring our anxieties and our cares to the Lord, that he would bring us a peace that surpasses all understanding.
And I think with like a genuineness, like I think sometimes we're like, oh yeah, we're giving God our anxieties and cares.
Yeah.
But I think I do that sometimes, like in the natural here,
Sure.
like, and yet I don't feel at peace.
Right.
And I think just that reality then, I think that brought of like, maybe I'm not actually giving him my cares and anxieties.
Wow.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
but being there, I'm like, I don't have another choice. Like,
Right.
we can be anxious for the whole rest of the time that we're here and being unknown. And I know what happens when I let anxiety spiral. I'm like, it becomes, if you've ever dealt with anxiety and panic attacks, it becomes debilitating. And like, I mean, you start to get like physical body symptoms and all that. And I'm like, well, I don't want that. Like, so I can like, genuinely give it all to him in the midst of worship right now, or
Wow.
let that start to fester. And the moment I let that start to fester, then
Yeah. Well, I think that's a truth about just walking with the Lord too, is what, we do our best with what we know, but then the Lord will bring us into circumstances where we find ourselves just really challenged, like you're saying. And now you're able to look back and just be like, well, was I really giving him everything before? And now you have a new a measuring line to be like, this is what it looks like. This is what it feels like to actually lay all of my cares and burdens to God and the peace that comes. Like, this is different than it was before.
Yep.
And so now I have a new way to judge that moving forward.
Yep.
How cool.
Yeah. And I've kind of felt that even coming back, like we were talking about house stuff the other day, because so we are trying to sell our old house. And we bought a new house because we felt peace from the Lord that this is what we were supposed to do for the future of our family. But we're still trying to sell our old house. And there's some uncertainty in that right now, because we're however many days in of it being on the market. It has not sold yet. And we're having to continually kind of drop the price of it in order to get it sold. And just circumstances, without going into all the details, or we might have to make some other decisions soon. And so I had brought that up, and you were like, well, should I be worried? And like, I feel like I should be more worried, like in the natural, like I feel like I should, because this is kind of crazy and it's a lot of money. Like, but I've just felt so much more at peace than I feel like I ever would have been in a prior season with something like this. I would have been a lot more anxious. And I think I told you that. I'm like, well, there's no point in worrying. Like,
Right.
I mean, what good's that going to do? And plus I keep going back to the fact that, well, we felt at peace, but moving forward in this decision,
Absolutely.
God gave us that peace.
Yeah.
So therefore we have to trust that he's going to come through.
Totally.
And not just sit in anxiety when he's called us to this next step. And so I think being in Israel actually like has allowed me then to come back and be in this season and be in the situations that we're in right now and not have anxiety surrounding it.
Yeah. Well, let me just speak to how, because I've got this background with you. And so knowing that anxiety was a part of your story, there were times when you talk about debilitating anxiety, you've been there. You've had to be medicated for this. And so you saw this choice before you. Like, am I going to allow this to go down this road? Or am I going to trust God in a way that I never have before? And you chose the latter, and God came through.
Yeah.
What a testimony.
Yeah. So good. I think I don't think they were saying it over me, or if they were saying it to somebody else, but I just remember this, and I just don't remember the context of it. But while we were on the trip, of someone just saying, some of you are going to go home and you're breaking strongholds of anxiety in your family by like stepping into that now. And so that stuck with me. And I don't know who it was said to or who said it, but I just remember that. And it was like, that was powerful. Like, by us walking through this season and making those decisions that we're making in this moment.
Right.
So,
and it's not comfortable while you're there. but the uncomfortable, the discomfort during that time brings you to a place where you're breaking chains.
Yep.
How cool.
Yeah. But then, and I think we'll kind of a couple more things, and then maybe we'll kind of wrap up the Israel part of it, because then the next part of it is kind of the trek to Egypt.
Okay.
So I think that might be a good kind of
Yeah.
breaking point, like timeline wise. But so we kind of did that, and then throughout the rest of that day, on that Saturday, I don't know. I think we did more worship later. That was fairly uneventful outside of just that continued place of worship and having meals and all those things. I did miss that Friday night, actually, to backtrack. I knew there was something there we did. We had a really neat experience Friday night. We had a rabbi, not a messianic rabbi,
Yep.
and him and his wife and their 4 kids that joined us, and they have connections with some people in our group, I guess, already. And so they joined us at the hotel, though, and did Friday is their Sabbath, and they do traditional Shabbat dinner Friday night.
Okay.
And it's a whole thing. Like, we have a Seder dinner we're doing here at the church coming up, and it kind of, as we're prepping for that, it kind of reminds me of it just because of all of these different pieces and very specific things that they do.
Yeah.
Lots of singing. Like the kids and the husband will sing over the wife this like Proverbs 31 song in
precious.
Hebrew, and so all of these things. So we got to take part in like this traditional Shabbat celebration.
So cool.
Which is such a neat experience. And again, I think at that point we already knew that was after we known that the U.S. had already fired at Iran.
Right.
So to have that kind of in that moment there was really neat. So that was one thing I had forgot to mention that we got to partake in, which was unique.
Yeah. Well, that's cool that you guys were actually able to go through with that in the midst of everything that was going on there too.
Yep.
How neat.
So Sunday came, and a lot of Sunday was much like Saturday in spending a great deal of time in worship together. They were like, we want to do something though. You guys, we don't get to go see the rest of Israel. So they're like, we're going to see Israel today, but we're going to see it from the hotel. So there's like these big decks or balconies, and you could actually, from where we were located, they could actually point out some places you couldn't see, but they could point out directionally where it was.
Yeah.
But they could point out and like pointed out where Mary Magdalene's city was. They pointed out, and you could actually see the hillside where Tiberias was.
Wow.
Right behind the hotel, they pointed out the like hilly mountain area right there that was where the Mount of Beatitudes is. And so they were able for us to be there, and like while we didn't get to step on those areas, we could actually see kind of locationally where they are, which was really neat as well. But the one significant thing that day on Sunday, though, I think the most significant thing that day was that during our worship time that morning, we were, again, worshiping. We really pressed into declaring and declarations. So someone came up and kind of shared about like the significance of declaring things. And so there's like these 3 gals that had actually written down some very specific declarations over Israel, over the region.
Wow.
And so they read those out. And then, so there's just this time of declaring, and we even joined hands, everybody in the room at one point as we were praying and declaring. But it was in this time that we were specifically declaring some things over, like the regime in Iran being defeated, and peace over the area, and all of that. I don't know the exact words.
Sure.
Very powerful. I think I have it, and I could pull up at some point. But that it was at that time, it was 12/12, I guess specifically, that what's his name?
Ayatollah.
The Ayatollah that was killed.
Wow.
12/12, and it was right at that moment when we were declaring these particular things.
Oh my gosh.
And so we will never know here in the natural whether it was that our prayers played a part in that or not.
Right.
But as we felt this call and sense that the Lord had brought us there for a specific purpose, and to have feet on the ground, and to be making these declarations with feet on the ground there, that was a powerful, like very powerful moment. And Jack Hayford, if you don't know who he is, he's this pastor, and he's written a ton of books, a very monumental, well-known figure. and in Foursquare particularly. I don't know exactly what year it was, but he established 4 pillars in Israel.
Okay.
And I think they're at like the 4 kind of like corners of Israel, and they're focused around the idea of worship. So you can look them up. You can look up Jack Hayford's 4 pillars of worship, and you'll see what each one represents. So each one represents something different, but they're actual like monuments,
right?
Like there in Israel. One of the gals that was on the trip with us, one of our Foursquare pastors, her dad was like part of like working with Jack Hayford and putting these like establishing these pillars.
Okay.
So really cool like connection down there.
Yeah.
Well, they ended up while we were there in Israel, they got approval from Jack Hayford's grandson to have a 5th pillar established. That's going to be called, I believe, the Esther Mandate Pillar.
Wow. And
it's kind of right down from where we were at the hotel at the city of Mary Magdalene, like outside of an area there. They got out of the bus, almost got in trouble for doing this because no one was supposed to be there at this point. They had all of us write declarations on paper, and they took all of those papers and they buried it in a hole. And for now, just kind of did a temporary with like stones, which you see in scripture, building altars and stones.
Yeah.
And so I have a picture of that. And so they built that for now, but they have approval from Jack Hayford's grandson. They're actually going to go back once the war is over at some point this next year. And they're actually going to have a 5th pillar built there.
Wow. So
we all took part, and our letters are in that hole, in being part of this like monumental moment in history of a 5th pillar being placed in Israel.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Wow. Powerful.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing more about the escape, the miraculous escape from the war zone. We'll probably get into a little bit of how your precious family was doing back home in the midst of this. And yeah.
I was going to, though I don't even know how I left that out, but as part of that, like Friday through Sunday, or Saturday and Sunday, really, that 2 days. I didn't even say that, but after that one moment of being in the shelter Saturday morning, we were in and out of the shelter, especially that first day, every 30 minutes to an hour.
Wow.
And so it got to the point, and so this is, and I share that to say, that's the reality of what it was. That first night, Sunday night wasn't as bad. Saturday night, though, we were even up in like at night. So we'd be stumbling down the hall in PJs
oh my gosh.
into the bomb shelters as you get rudely awakened by this, which made sleep really rough because then you're waiting for that next alarm to go off.
Yeah.
There were so many times of that there was a reality I think we began to understand of like veterans that come back from the war and the PTSD that they have from like certain sounds. There was one moment I recall being in the shelter, and one individual, she had her phone like this, and the alarm went off, and she was like, like it had gotten to that point that we had been in and out so many times. And for some, the anxiety, there was a peace, yes, but there was definitely some wrestling with anxiety and fear a little bit more than others. And so it just got to that point that it was so over and over and over again that it began to build this like almost like PTSD and lack of sleep.
Yeah, that doesn't help. Well, I mean, just the psychology of that, like you are in that moment being trained that every time you hear this sound, you are to run for shelter because you are in danger.
Yeah.
Like that is the very thing that you're thinking and processing through when that happens. And so, when it happens a whole bunch of times, yeah, absolutely.
And that particular moment with like the phone drop moment, even that was in the shelter. Wow. So it was even that much so that even though we were in that sheltered place, that it was still triggering these like responses. So that's how significant, like that 2 days of back and forth in the bomb shelters was no like small thing. Yeah. It was definitely taking a toll on some people, while still resting in that peace, but just still battling those moments in the flesh of that fear and uncertainty. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So, and then also to wrap up the Israel part, as I forget, I didn't know much about the Iron Dome, but Israel's got this crazy like Iron Dome. I have not researched it enough yet to understand how it fully works, but basically when missiles launch, the idea is that they hit this Iron Dome and they're like obliterated instantly. And so there were actually some of our people to be out on their patios and didn't hear the alarms inside. And they're like, oh, this is pretty. The sky's so beautiful. It's beautiful out here. And like, oh, that's pretty. And they're like, oh, wait. As they literally would see a missile hit over the dome. Yep. And just like kind of like fizzle out basically.
Wow.
So that was kind of also the reality of like there were people actually seeing in our group missiles actually getting hit down.
Yeah.
Like as they're looking at the sky.
Yeah, I know. You sent me videos.
I know.
We'll hear more about that in future episodes.
Yes.
But yeah, looking forward to the rest of your story, and we'll pick back up here in the near future. So God bless you. Have a great week. Be sure and tune in for future episodes to hear the rest of this story.